All right. First, thank you everybody for joining. And I want to make a specific thanks to our partners in this this adventure, the Faribault Community and Economic Development Department, Deanna Kennan and Samantha Markman. Thanks for all the hard work helping put this together. Quite honestly, I want everybody to know Samantha did the heavy lifting around this. She's dynamite. We're blessed to have her on the Faribault team. So the goals today, specifically, we're going to share the information that we know. All right. Royal, no, I do not have my camera on. Actually, it looks like our server was hacked at the chamber last night, so I'm running off my phone. Anyway, so share the information that we know, identify the available resources at the state and the federal levels. And to be certain, these programs are evolving daily. Some of them actually, information is coming out hourly as they're continuing to develop the delivery models for these programs that have been put in place to help us deal with this epidemic. And lastly, we want to hear from you, your questions, your comments, and to be sure, you might not have those during the meeting. So my email and Samantha's emails are at the end of this presentation. Please, anytime, feel free to send us your questions or things that you know that we could share for the good of the cause for the Faribault business community during this. Again, expect more focused follow-up meetings with commercial lenders. I would expect that we'll very shortly have a meeting focused on our SBDC and SCORE partners, who are also a fantastic resource. Also, we're putting a resource page added, I should say a resource note added with our other resources on the Chamber's website right now that will connect you to different private partners that can help you navigate these. So CPAs and attorneys that are available to help you through these times. So that's coming as well. So right now, we have at the federal level, we have the SBA that has 3 programs currently that we know of that are on the list: the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan Advance, and I think probably most of the questions right now are around the Paycheck Protection Program. Also, the Internal Revenue Service has made some concessions on income tax deadlines, as you know. At the state level, D, the Department of Employment and Economic Development, is helping process Small Business Emergency Loan Program and the Small Business Guarantee Loan Program. Minnesota Unemployment has a shared work program, and the Department of Revenue has changed business tax deadlines. Also, Minnesota Unemployment with the unemployment benefits changes, as well as the Department of Revenue has changed income tax deadlines as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Samantha Markman, who's done a great job getting this together and is going to share a little bit more about what we know. So off to you, Samantha.
Great, thanks, Nort. Hoping everyone can hear me. Samantha Markman, Economic Development Coordinator for the City of Faribault. Hopefully I've had the opportunity to meet most of you, but just a little bit of background. Born and raised in Faribault, I must say it's a pretty humbling experience to do economic development in your hometown. You likely won't find a bigger advocate for the success of our community and the businesses here. So thank you to all of you for the work that you do every day, and especially during these times, to keep your small businesses afloat. Know that we're here to serve as resources and to guide you to the resources that have been made available. Nort just provided a high-level list of all of the dedicated resources that have been made available given the current circumstances with COVID-19. We're not going to say by any means that we're an expert in this field or these particular programs, but know that there are people that are, and we're going to be here to point you to those experts in any given program and try and best direct your questions and comments as you have them. So with that, we're going to take a deeper dive into, I think one of the many questions that most people have is, where do I start? You know, there's a lot of different resources out there. There's a lot of different businesses that can benefit from these resources, but realistically, where do we start with some of this information? DEED has some really great resources out there, the Department of Employment and Economic Development, to help guide these small businesses. They've developed what's called a small business guide. And just so everyone's aware, this program will be made available afterwards. We'll have a PDF and PowerPoint copy for you, and I've gone ahead and made all of these links hyperlinks. So feel free to utilize this as a working document moving forward. You'll notice that the DEED Small Business Guide and the DEED Frequently Asked Questions there, those are the hyperlinks. Utilize those after this program has concluded. Poke around. There's some really great information out there, and through those business guides and the frequently asked questions, I'm going to guarantee a lot of the questions that you have could and would be answered through these. But with that, we're just going to dive in here. We've kind of developed a 4-step process for how we think businesses should be accessing these resources. First and foremost, make sure you're contacting your insurance company. There may have been benefits that you were paying for or have access to through your insurance company that can be utilized as that kind of first step resource. The second would be reaching out to your primary bank or your lending institution. They're going to have not only their own resources, but most of them, especially local banks, are approved with all of the Small Business Administration's loan programs, and they're going to be able to help guide you to how best to maximize all of those resources that are out there. The third step would then be to really digging into the federal programs. Those are going to be those Small Business Administration or other federal programs. Those are the larger chunks of money that are available to businesses to help you weather the storm. And those are going to just be a way to, like I mentioned, just maximize on those available loan dollars. And like I mentioned, many of your primary banking or lending institutions are going to have information around those SBA or federal programs. And then kind of as the last step would be the step 4, the state programs available. Governor Walz has made a variety of different emergency loan funds available at the state level, but those are typically going to be for those applicants that have been denied credit through a bank or through the SBA program. So that's kind of your last stop on the road to accessing some of these resources. It's really kind of developing that 4-step process, and I'll just make sure that some of my colleagues here don't have anything to chime in on that process. With that, we're going to take a little deeper dive into the federal programs that have been made available largely through the SBA. They've been a great partner in accessing some of these larger loans that are available for the small businesses or those under 500 and then some under 250 for employee count. The first I want to talk about, as Nort mentioned, is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, or EIDL. This is offered through the Small Business Administration up to $2 million. So as I mentioned, the federal loan programs are going to be those large buckets of funds for these businesses to access. This is going to replace your working capital or loss of revenue during this time. So there's a variety of different uses that these funds can be utilized for, and really just to replace that revenue stream that you're losing during the time that you're closed down. They're going to be at a 3.75% fixed interest rate for small businesses or a 2.75% fixed interest rate for nonprofits. They're a maximum of 30-year repayment terms based on your ability to repay. So you'll work with the SBA on approval to just determine what that repayment term will look like. There are options for deferment. So there are ways that this being a payable loan to really kind of structure this to work for your business and the ability to repay those. The other benefits are there are no fees to be paid by the borrower or the bank, and there is a collateral requirement if you are accessing loans over $25,000. The big kind of bonus to this EIDL program that came out afterwards would be the $10,000 advance. So at the time that you apply for this economic injury disaster loan, you can choose to access that $10,000 advance that will be forgiven. There is no repayment associated with the $10,000 advance, and per the application, these dollars could be accessed as soon as 3 days after the time of application. So if you're thinking about ways that there are resources out there to capitalize on. This is one that Deed's Small Business Guide is really recommending all businesses look into. It's to replace that loss of revenue, to increase your working capital during these times and get some of those things paid for.
Samantha,
of eligibility. Oh, go ahead, Deanna.
so I'd just like to jump in for 1 second. This is Deanna Kennan. I'm the Community and Economic Development Director here with the city. So with this program, Sam has provided a great overview of it. And just to give some examples of how these dollars can be used, and I know Sam has touched on it, but it's to cover those bills that cannot be paid during this disaster's impact. So it's maintaining payroll, it's providing paid sick leave, paying rent or paying mortgages, and repaying any of those unmet expenses. So it has a really broad application, which makes this program very attractive. And then also having that $10,000 upfront component as well. Now, some of the things that have changed when this program first rolled out, that $10,000 upfront grant or forgivable loan was not included. And so if you applied for this program before that was launched, what is being suggested is that you reapply for the program, actually using their new application. They streamlined the application from when it first rolled out. And this is, again, another example of how these programs are changing daily, or like Nort said, some of them are even changing hourly. The SBA is recognizing that they need to make some changes. They streamlined that application and then provided this component. Samantha and I have both been participating in, it was daily, now it's moved to a couple times a week call with the Commissioner of the Department of Employment and Economic Development, Steve Grove. He includes many other of the commissioners on that same call. And this has come up. People have been saying, hey, I applied for this program, that $10,000 wasn't offered. And so the answer was reapply, use the new simplified application, and you'll be able to access those dollars. That's it. Thanks, Sam.
No, that's great. It's perfect. And we're all trying to keep up with how this is all evolving and changing, and I can't imagine how difficult it might be for some of these small businesses to track some of this information. So we're hoping we're doing some of the heavy lifting for you and getting some of those resources and links out there and just updating you as best we can during this time, and also relying on some of the experts of these programs to be those resources for ourselves too. So just as Deanna mentioned, that working capital, payroll, fixed debts, account payable, and you can apply directly through the Small Business Administration. They've streamlined that application process, just as Deanna mentioned, and 100% online application. So you don't have to worry about calling and waiting on those long phone lines. If you have questions, they've found a way to kind of flesh out that through their online FAQs and different things like that. So really turn to that Small Business Administration website to get that application in.
Hey, Sam?
Yep, go ahead, Nort.
No, this is Royal.
Go ahead.
Is the 10,000 advance part of the, well, I'm just going to call it the $25,000 loan, although it can be more than that. So basically, is the advance part of the loan?
So that's a great question. So it would be considered part of the overall financial package that you're receiving through the program, although that has certain guidelines for, like I said, those repayment terms. So that portion of the overall financial package or loan that's being offered through that program is going to have varying repayment based on your ability to repay, but that specific $10,000 advance, it will be considered forgivable, but you would have the that $10,000 as part of your overall loan package with that program.
So our understanding is you wouldn't be able to access $2 million plus $10,000.
Okay, that makes sense. Yes, I agree. Thank you.
I'm just reading through a question that we have on the chat too. Feel free to either chime in at any time with questions, or there is a chat feature here. Question on the application, one line item asks for lost rents, commercial and residential. What if you don't know the loss yet? Do you guess? Maybe a question for a lender. I am gonna defer that to a question for a lender or for that program specifically. We don't have the information or haven't gone through the application process ourselves.
I have tried to go through the application process just to have a better understanding so that we could help. But very early in the application, you need certain business information that we're not able to provide. So I was trying to do a sample loan application so that we could help answer some of those specific questions about the actual application. But like I said, it's pretty impossible for us to do it. So the lenders who have gone through a lot of training with this program should be able to help with that specific question. And also, we understand that many of the questions are going to be very specific to your individual business. And that's why, as Sam said early on, and as Nort has said, we are trying to provide the big picture and help you figure out how to navigate and access the experts. We are not trying to be those experts in this particular case because there is such specific nuances to each individual business and your questions.
That's a really good point, Deanna. Thanks for clarifying that. And to be sure, again, we want your feedback because we are going to follow up with easy access to every bit of solid information we can find as well, and also have the people on the next calls that can be the experts for you in any given area. And certainly as we learn solidly what the facts are around these, we'll share those up on our sites, very easy to find.
And I also see there's a question on the maximum loan. So for the EIDL or the economic injury disaster loan, this is up to $2 million for any one applicant. So as we kind of first talked about in outlining these programs, one that might be a lot of questions or kind of one of the newest to come online is this Paycheck Protection Program, which is offered at the federal level through the Small Business Administration. I apologize, I'm not usually one to have a lot of words on the screen, but this one definitely warrants it. And as I mentioned, this will be available after the fact, so feel free to we'll get this linked up on the chamber and the city's website resource pages. So feel free to kind of dive into this a little bit further to digest some of this information. But to best kind of summarize this, this is a loan designed to incentivize small businesses to keep their workers on the payroll. So I know a lot of businesses have potentially turned to laying off their employees, accessing the unemployment benefits, or potentially keeping some of those on board. But this is really a program designed to offer payroll assistance to the employers to keep those employees on their payroll. It's going to be a maximum of up to $10 million, and the SBA will forgive loans for all employees that are kept on the payroll for 8 weeks. 75% of the loan must be used for payroll, but there are a few other uses that these dollars can be utilized for, such as rent, mortgage, and interest, or utilities. There's been a lot of questions just around the forgiveness terms, and again, I'm going to defer that to the lenders. I have a list of local lenders, both in Faribault and the greater Rice County area, that are approved under this program. Make sure that you're reaching out to your lender or potentially connecting with an approved SBA lender to answer answer any of those specific questions that you have. For those non-forgivable terms, it does have a maturity date of 2 years and a 1% fixed interest rate. There are no fees associated with this, and it is 100% SBA guaranteed. So they're not looking for any collateral or personal guarantees from the businesses themselves. A variety of different businesses are eligible for this program. So just like I mentioned, make sure you're working with your lenders and asking the questions specific to this Paycheck Protection Program. This is a new one to have come out last Friday. We heard from a lot of our local lenders that the guidelines were quickly changing. We're hoping that we're getting some more of those details flushed out for businesses to best access this information, but it's really going to be those local lenders that are going to be the experts in this category.
Hey, Sam. Hey, Sam.
Yep, go ahead, Roy.
Can I add something, please?
Sure.
One of my clients through the SBDC asked me a great question that I followed up on yesterday, and that was, if you are running a brick and mortar non-essential business, can you sell items online? And if you can sell items online, can you use the PPP for employees? Or is it just the owner that can sell the items online? And the answer I got from the SBDC was that yes, brick and mortar non-essential businesses can sell items online, and yes, you can use the PPP for employees. You just can't be open to the public and have customers inside the store.
Okay, great. No, that's a really great point to add. And we're finding that each of these specific programs that businesses are asking, we're finding that those end up being great resources for the greater good. And I know, Nort, we had a couple questions come in about the PPP program that we've fleshed out some of those nuances. Do you want to touch on some of those answers that we had gotten from Deed based on those questions too?
Well, I think most of them are outlined here, but a couple of things that are still actually in flux are on the 501c6s. I would say that. I would also share that the number that they'll base eligibility on is 250% of your average month from last year for payroll, is my understanding, is the starting point for what you could be eligible for. So if you added employees last month, it's not likely that they would be, those paychecks would be eligible. But again, those are the things I know for sure. Otherwise, it's pretty straightforward, and Sammy did a good job outlining it here. The balance of the questions, I think, land on lenders.
Great.
We are also getting good news back through the various different connections that we have that, like Sam mentioned, this program just became available on Friday. And yesterday I received an email from some economic development colleagues that said that they worked with one of their actually nonprofit clients, and they submitted an application on Friday and they were made aware on Monday that it was approved. So the federal government and the SBA is working through these as fast as they can. Not everybody's probably going to have that quick of a turnaround time,
Right.
But this is a great example of how everybody is trying to come together. The SBA geared up. Sam will get into the deed programs. They've geared up to try to make sure that these can all be processed pretty timely. So yesterday when that email came out, that was pretty exciting news for, everybody who's really trying to help people.
Right. And to be sure, 501c3s are definitely eligible. It's the 501c6s that are in flux.
All great points. Thank you. Next, we're going to touch on some of the unemployment programs offered through the state. I know most of you are probably well aware of the traditional unemployment benefits that have been offered through the state. Most small businesses or businesses with a few employees are paying for these benefits and have the ability to access those during these times. For the employees, the application process for those needing to access these benefits has been streamlined, and they have the ability to 100% apply online for these benefits. But in addition to this, know that there are some alternatives to a complete layoff. The state of Minnesota has what's called a shared work program, and as an alternative to a layoff for an employee, it allows the employer to divide up, rather than say laying off one employee for 40 hours a week, you could potentially lay off 4 employees for 10 hours a week and have the ability for those 4 employees to make up the loss of income through the unemployment benefits. So this just allows the burden to kind of be spread versus to avoid kind of that full layoff of an employee, but to also capitalize on those unemployment dollars to keep those employees A, employed and on the payroll, and B, make up some of that loss of income for reduction of hours. And then there is also a pandemic unemployment assistance program for those who do not qualify for traditional unemployment insurance benefits. This is one of those new to the table programs. We're starting to see information rolling out on this, but know that there will be additional information available soon. It could take several weeks for these payments to begin, but we're trying, I know the state's trying to be as accommodating as possible to access all of those that are feeling the burden during this time, including those that wouldn't typically qualify for the unemployment insurance benefits. These are going to be your independent contractors or your self-employed. Those are also eligible for the Paycheck Protection Program, though. So feel free to take a deeper dive into each of these kind of programs and figure out which is best going to fit your needs, knowing that information is coming daily.
So one of the, kind of going back to that, especially the pandemic unemployment, one of the things that Commissioner Grove mentioned yesterday in our phone call is that while this Congress has authorized this particular program, each individual state has to create the program. And so our state is working hard on getting that all created. He did reiterate that benefits would be post-dated. Is that the right way to say it? They'd actually go back to the date of the application, even though that they're working through that. But the other thing that he said is, especially to those sole proprietors and to those contractors, apply now for uninsurance or unemployment insurance. You will get rejected, which is okay. But what that is going to do is get you into the state system. And once the state has their program ready to go, they are proactively going to reach out to those people who didn't qualify for the unemployment insurance, but who do qualify for this program. So again, you'll get rejected. Don't get disheartened by that, because that gets you into the system, and then the state can proactively reach out to you once this program is ready to go at that state level.
Thank you. And now to touch on the state programs that fall outside of the unemployment programs. So the Small Business Emergency Loans, SBEL, we like to work in acronyms in economic development. So I try and include those because sometimes you'll see them and wonder what the heck are those. So again, utilize this as a resource moving forward, but the Department of Employment and Economic Development has this emergency loan program. As mentioned in the steps to follow, these are typically going to be for businesses that have A, first filed insurance claims, and B, maybe ineligible for standard loans from a lender or from the SBA. So this is kind of your last step on the list of resources available. They're going to range from $2,500 to $35,000. They're interest free. They have the ability to be deferred and also repaid over 5 years. There may be partial forgiveness for these, and they're only provided to Minnesota businesses since this is a local state program. These are going to be for the businesses directly and adversely affected by the Minnesota executive orders. More information can be found on this specific program and those businesses to be eligible through the program website. I've made the program at the top there a hyperlink, so feel free to access this information if you feel you may qualify after the call. For an approved local lender for this program, you would be working with the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation. They've been a great partner of the City of Faribault and the Economic Development Department, and you'll be in great hands over there. Diane Lewis is one of the loan lenders that you would be able to contact, and another one of those experts for the loan programs available through the state.
The reason, just to interject one more time,
No, you're good. You're good.
But the reason that the state is asking everybody, or when you look at that flow chart on what to do first, the reason they're asking everybody to apply for those federal funds is because what the state wants to do is leverage those dollars and help their dollars go further to the people who can't access those state dollars. One common question has been, since you're applying for both kind of simultaneously, can you use your federal dollars to repay back your state dollars? And what the state keeps saying is those are going to be specific to your individual loan. So again, you'll be working with your lender through some of those questions. But the state really is trying to leverage their funds. So they're definitely encouraging the federal be tapped into first.
Just reading some of the questions over here. On Minnesota unemployment insurance, if an employee doesn't list the reason for separation as COVID-19 related, will they still get the additional $600 from the federal program? Since Minnesota UI isn't offering employers to call in with questions, how can employer change the separation reason for an employee. There are resources to get the questions out there. We have the ability to send some of these to those twice a week meetings with the Department of Employment and Economic Development, where we mentioned that the commissioners pulling in other experts in these programs. So with some of these specific questions, we're happy to forward those on and follow up afterwards.
I believe
in some of these. Go
also,
ahead.
I believe they opened the phone lines again. At least that was mentioned on Monday. Now there's specific times that you can call in depending on what your question is. So they've put them into these blocks, but you will have long wait times, and they're just warning everybody of that. But the call lines have been open again, but then also check their website for the uimn.org, and they're trying to keep those frequently asked questions out there as well. But if you already have an account, you can call Monday through Thursday from 8 to 2. And if you're applying, you can call on Fridays between 8 and 2. And again, those are going to be long wait times most likely, but they have reopened the call line.
Awesome. And yes, the PowerPoint will be shared afterwards. Another question there. So we'll get those up on the the Chamber's resource page, and also the city's website, and try and share that as best we can.
And all those links on the presentation will be live, so you'll be able to hyperlink to those resources off of that presentation. I didn't catch it if we had added CCF Bank to the list of lenders as well, and we'll make sure we get that done.
Yep, absolutely. I have a note here, so we'll get that presentation updated before sending out.
You bet. I want to be respectful of everybody's time. Deanna, you got anything else? Words of wisdom for everybody?
I don't know if Sam wants to run through this last
Oh, is there? Okay.
Sure.
Go,
so
Sam.
The last one here, the small business loan guarantee, another one of those offered directly through the state of Minnesota with the Department of Employment and Economic Development. This is another one of those that is an evolving program, but we wanted to get the information out to folks so they know it is available, or will be here shortly. But these are 80% loan guarantees up to $250,000. So you're going to be able to get a $200,000 loan guaranteed through the state of Minnesota, but you're applying directly through any of their approved lenders. So the money's not coming funneled through the state, but through the lender itself. You just have the ability to access the guaranteed dollars from the state of Minnesota. Again, this is going to be along that fourth step of those businesses that aren't approved for traditional lending or for the SBA loan programs. So just another way for some of these businesses that are having a harder time accessing some of these capital dollars. The loan guarantee program may be one of those alternative resources. They are also accepting applications to be an approved lender. I know we took a glance through the list and didn't see that we maybe didn't have many representatives from the banking institutions online here, understanding they're pretty busy right now, but we'll make sure that we're getting the resources out to those that may be able to access these dollars, and also those that may be able to benefit from being those approved lenders or program recipients. So with that kind of concludes the programs that we've found to be beneficial for our small business community and those dollars to be accessed. We can continue to take any questions, but as Nort mentioned, trying to be cognizant of everyone's time as well.
I would just like to thank Nort and the chamber staff and also our team here at the city for, continuing to work hard to make sure that we are helpful during this time of crisis. We're helpful, all the time, but especially right now, kind of the focus of our work is shifting a little bit. We're pivoting just like everybody else is pivoting. Samantha and Nort are great contacts and great resources for you. We are trying to, I know that when the invitation was sent out, both Samantha and Nort's emails were included. Please please send your email questions, and we will work to direct you to the answers or forward your questions on to the experts. And, you know, like I said, Sam and I are participating in calls, and I know Nort is participating in various different calls and webinars through his chamber connections as well. So we're working hard to help you. I just want to let you know that we're doing whatever we can to support you. One of the things that we are interested in is understanding if there's ways that we can provide local resources to continue to fill the gaps that are not being provided through the federal and the state resources. We will be having conversations with our Economic Development Authority about that, but before we just create something, we really need to understand what would help our local businesses. So I don't know if people have provided comment or questions on that, but, you know, please reach out to Samantha, and, you know, we can catalog that and try to respond and react fluidly to those needs. So again, thank you for participating, and, you know, thank you for allowing us an opportunity to share this information with you.
Nort, you're still muted. I see you're trying to talk. Let's see. Unmute. There we go.
A lot of people have been waiting for me to be muted when I try to talk. So anyway.
Nort, they say the same thing about me too, especially the city council.
It's, you know, you have to get those ideas out there. You really got a lot of thoughts, you want to share them. So importantly, the email questions, this is importantly for everybody. Those will give us a chance to be very specific with you on a personal level about your questions. It will also give us the opportunity to connect you directly, not necessarily have to wait to go through the Zoom call. We can connect you directly with Andre or Royal, who are our two local resources with the SBDC office, which is through the Chamber of Commerce here, also with SCORE, or with other resources that can be particular to you. It also gives us the opportunity to log your questions with answers in an FAQ sheet. So we can have that frequently asked questions sheet ready and keep that running and up to date with the latest information as well on our site. So we're looking to you for your help to help us do our job the best we can. Lastly, Faribault, we are going to get through this. Everything that we're doing now is allowing us to posture ourselves for a very successful and robust comeback from this big setback. So everybody, please hang in there. There's light at the end of the tunnel, and it's going to shine as bright on Faribault as anywhere else. Keep up the great work. Everybody on the call, hang in there. Again, shoot us your questions. Sam, anything else? Deanna?
No, I think that sounds great. We're here for you, so feel free to utilize us and the resources that have been made available, and know that we're rooting for you just as anyone, and I'm happy to call Faribault home. So thank you, everyone.
So after the feedback today, we're going to decide what the next hot topic is going to be and get an email out tomorrow morning with the next scheduled Zoom call, which could be as early as Thursday. So thanks a whole bunch, everyone. A motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you. Bye now.